of course, there's news coming out of the meetings. There's could be a potential tush push ban looming. So we'll
Sounds like there's some momentum for it.
Have to see how that plays out today. But we have some audio of Adam Peters speaking to the media, and we got like 5 clips here. Let's start with what he believes Deebo Samuel brings to this Commanders offense.
Well, just everything he can do, really. You can put him in the backfield. Cliff's a really creative guy, so it gives him another quote-unquote toy to play with, in terms of where you can align him. You can line him wide, you can line him in the slot, you can align him in the backfield. And we do a lot of screen game. And so Deebo's incredible in that, just catch it and run, making plays with the ball in his hand. So we thought he was a really good fit for what we do.
Yeah, I think in the screen game, he's going to have a real impact on this offense.
Agreed. And if you read the quotes from Samuel, he's very motivated.
Yeah.
He's kind of admitted, hey, I was a little bit out of shape. And apparently he's grinding.
Well, Adam said he was not worried about his weight. He said he's just a thick guy. He's never going to be like 200 pounds.
Yeah.
And
that adds to his strengths. You know what I mean? He's tough to bring down because of that, especially in the lower half.
And everybody knows, especially at this point, he's not the greatest separator. But if you get him the ball 2 yards off the line of scrimmage and he gets ahead of steam and he's healthy, he's a tough dude to bring down. And that might be where that little extra weight helps him.
They like everything about him. They like what he brings, the toughness. They like how he can kind of take over a game. They like his family. They like everything about him.
And they like that let's be honest. He's playing for a $30 million a year plus type of deal.
For sure.
Towards
motivated.
the twilight of his career. Like he's not young anymore. He's not 22 or 23 years old. Like this might be his last chance at scoring a really big contract before he hangs him up. So he has to have a good year. He has to be supremely motivated.
He's got to stay healthy. If he can stay healthy, I think he'll be fine.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he's going to be a big impact player on the offense, granted his health. If he can play in 14 or 15 games, you're going to get a lot out of Deebo. He also addressed the state of the defensive line after all of the offseason moves. Of course, Jonathan Allen departs. Kinlaw comes in. They made some other ancillary moves on the defensive line.
They love Kinlaw. I'm sure you'll hear that here.
Yeah.
They just love him. He says he's seen him anywhere from 275 to like almost 350.
Right.
Feel really good with the guys that we brought in, the guys that were here, that you're going to have a second year in this system. So, we brought in, we brought in Wise, who's a big physical defensive end. We brought in Eddie Goldman, physical defensive tackle. And then the big one was Kinlaw. And Kinlaw is a tone setter. He's explosive. He's physical. He can line up across the line. And we think he's going to be a great commander. And he wanted to be here. He wanted him to be here. He's from D.C. So there's a lot of extra incentive for that. So they're like kind of the bigger guys that we brought in. We brought Jacob Martin, who's going to be able to rush the passer and do a line a lot of different ways. And then with the guys that we have in there, there'll be a second year in the system. So we feel like we have really good depth, really good competition, and but also the optionality if we do want to add for the draft, we can do that too.
What they said about Kinlaw, too, I think later in his presser, he said, is that he asked the reporters, have you guys seen him in person? Like, not just over Zoom. Zoom doesn't do it. Yeah. He's a monster. Yeah. He's a massive human. And he says, he's got explosiveness. Then I think Nicky followed up about him suggesting maybe that he wanted to lose a little weight. He goes, he can play at any weight. I've seen him play at 275, and I've seen him playing at 335 plus. Whatever he feels most comfortable with. They'll work together to get him, but they're really excited. And they, there were a lot of people questioning that signing. If there was one offseason signing they had,
kind of a head scratcher for
people
pundits
were really kind of trashing. That a signing. It was this one. He was like, look, early on in his career, I think he started with San Francisco, right? And then he had an injury.
Yes.
And then a really tough injury. And then he came back and he played. He's like 60% of his snaps last year with the Jets. They're convinced his best football is ahead of him. And you could tell Adam Peters loves this guy. So
I just put up our Surfside
I think he's a freak.
Poll of the day. You can vote at Junks Radio on X. We love Surfside iced tea and vodka, Surfside lemonade and vodka. They're both The perfect addition to any gathering. Each can only 100 calories with zero carbonation for easy sipping. You can find Surfside at your local bars and in convenient variety 8-packs at your local liquor stores. Must be 21. Please drink responsibly. And it's simply, what grade would you give the Commanders in the offseason so far? Just right now, I would probably give a B plus, A minus, but there's no A's, minuses, or B pluses. So I guess I'd give them an A because Tunsil and Samuel alone were pretty big moves.
I think so too. I listened to this presser that we're going through the clips of, and they had me convinced. Adam's like, we think we're a pretty good football team.
Right.
We think we improved. We think we're pretty good right now.
Yeah.
Well, they
And
won
you
the
have to
NFC
believe
Championship game.
Yeah.
I mean, I know the schedule gets a little difficult, but they improved their roster, and it's going to get even better.
Yep. And part of the reason they're a really good football team is Terry McLaurin had a breakout year with Jaden Daniels under center. He's in the last year of his deal. And by the way, Terry is now, he's either 29 or 30.
He's 29.
I think he's 29.
Yeah, he's 30. He's 30 in his 2025 season at some point.
Yeah.
He has a $25 million cap hit in 2025. So there have been discussions about extending Terry McLaurin. Here's Adam Peters talking about how those talks are going.
Yeah, I think, short answer is we want to make Terry a commander for a long time. You know, he's a great commander. He got better and better as the season went on, not only as a player, but as a leader. It was really impressive to see him grow so much when you think of Terry as this, pristine, polished player, but then he got even better, so it's really cool. Everybody can get better, even the great ones. So, but we've had talks with Terry's representation, and I think just like any talks we'll have, those will stay in the house. But it's been really positive.
Yeah, it'll get done.
I think
it
it'll
will
get
certainly
done.
get done. And
They're not letting Terry go anywhere.
there aren't a lot of guys who start and end their career with the same teams that put up really good
Especially
numbers.
receivers.
But he might be one of those guys.
Could be.
He might just be like a commander for life.
Oh, I think he's going to be pretty close to one.
Maybe he latches on with another team for a year or two at the end if he plays out the string here. But that's a guy you want on your roster, even at an advanced age, because he's such a good influence on the younger players.
Oh,
you want to keep him around.
And like you said, he got better.
Yeah.
And Terry made a point of saying that he wanted to get better after the catch. And how many balls did he take to the house where he just broke tackles and went another 30, 40 yards?
Had a spectacular year. Hope he can do it again or a close approximation of it.
I mean, he's really, really blossomed.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure he did get better, but just imagine if he had a legitimate quarterback for his entire career.
yeah.
The kind of numbers he would have put up.
Yeah.
Right. That's not a coincidence.
No.
But I think, and we talked about towards the end of the season, I think he did eliminate this idea that he's not a true number one.
Yeah.
I think we've eliminated that. We put that
those
to
rest.
Yeah.
So Adam Peters has not been shy about trading away draft capital, obviously, to bring in guys like Tunsil, Lattimore, Deebo Samuel. So he was asked about the idea of trading back to accumulate some of those picks that he's dealt away.
That's certainly something that we'll consider. We'll consider everything, trading up, trading down. We always do. With trading down, you have to have somebody who wants to trade up, and that's what I always say, I'd love to trade down all the time, but it has to be somebody else that wants to trade up, and it has to be the right deal. And how far do you want to go back, and all those different things you take into account. Who's there on the board, right? Is there just one player on the board that you want? And if that's the case, and maybe you think twice about trading back, because but if you have 5 players on the board that you really like, you can trade back a few picks, and then you can just pick one of those. And I think, with what we did in free agency and through the trades, we have the optionality to really do anything at 29, which we feel really good about.
Yeah, so he certainly seems open to the prospect of trading back.
He loves the word optionality.
Yeah, optionality. It's a
kind
good
of a
one.
weird word.
I don't know if I've ever used that word.
Because you just
in a
said the
sentence.
option. You don't have to say the optionality. It's just you have the option.
Yeah, it's a football-y type of word.
But he also said, they're open to everything, including trading up.
Yep.
So I don't know if that will really occur. I do think that they would like to trade down, but he brought up the great point. You got to have a partner, and it's got to make sense. And I think, did he say it in that clip that, if you only have one guy that you're targeting in that area, you may not trade down. But if you got 5 guys you like,
he did address that.
Yeah. Then you might pull the trigger.
All right, the last clip that we have, this is Adam Peters telling everybody why they picked up Laremy Tunsil in a deal with the Houston Texans to fortify the offensive line.
Those guys don't come on the market very often, right? Left tackles in free agency or any time really. And picking 29, it's not like you're picking your top 5 and it's a sure thing or as close to a sure thing as you can get. So when you have an opportunity like that, and we really wanted to bolster the offensive line, and he's, in our opinion, one of the best. You can say he's top 3, top 2 in pass protection. I think he's underrated as a run blocker too, and understanding too, we have people in that building that really vouch for him as a person, so we knew he'd fit in with our team, with our locker room, within that O-line room, and early returns show like he's been great. When he came out here, he's connected with a lot of our guys, and I think he's going to be a great addition. So those opportunities are rare, so we thought it was right to pounce on it.
Must be nice to just, as you approach the season, if you're Jaden Daniels, you're like, I'm not going to get sacked from the left side. Like,
it's unlikely.
I might get sacked from the right side, but for the most part, I'm not going to get sacked from the left side as long as Laremy Tunsil
there,
is manning that spot and he's healthy.
And you have optionality. You can throw a screen to Samuel. You can have him in the backfield.
A lot of options. I do think what he said ultimately is right, though. They had a pretty successful. I kind of agree with your grade, like A-, B+, just from a amateur perspective of looking at it.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't get the edge rusher. Like if they got Trey Hendrickson, then you'd probably give it an A+.
But they kind of do have that flexibility now, the optionality where they can go wherever they want in the draft. It doesn't really matter position. I don't think they're going to take a quarterback, but they can kind of go anywhere.
Yeah, they're not forced to take a left tackle now.
Yeah,
you can vote at Junks Radio on our poll of the day. So far, 69% are giving it a B, the offseason, 12% A, 16% C, 3% D or lower.
Coming up at 9 o'clock, Randolph Childress, hoops analyst for the ACC Network. He'll join us to talk Final Four. When we come back, we'll give you the latest updates on Maryland Terrapins basketball. And spoiler alert, they're not great. We'll get into that next here on The Fan.